The crimson dust of Cathara 7 swirled around Captain Darren Holt's boots as he surveyed the impossible scene before him. His tactical visor highlighted the 3 Vraken cubs in aggressive red, their biosignatures pulsing with barely contained lethality. Each cub was the size of a full-grown earth bear, their obsidian scales gleaming under the twin suns, razor-sharp claws extended. Behind them, partially obscured by an outcropping of crystalline rock, cowered the human girl. "All units hold position," Darren commanded through his helmet comm, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. "Weapons hot, but do not engage unless I give the order." 12 Galactic Defense Force soldiers formed a semicircle around the cubs, plasma rifles trained on the juvenile predators. The Vraken were apex hunters, feared across 17 star systems. Adult Vraken had decimated entire colonies. Even these cubs, barely 6 months old, possessed enough strength to tear through reinforced steel plating. The girl was maybe 14 standard years old, wearing nothing but torn colonial clothing and a research facility ID badge that identified her as Ilara Ven, daughter of the xenobiologists stationed at the now-destroyed Forward Research Station 12. She should have been dead. Everyone at the station was dead. The Vraken matriarch had made certain of that when she'd attacked 3 days ago. "Captain," Lieutenant Zaris hissed through the comm, her reptilian features twisted with concern, visible through her helmet's transparent faceplate. "Those cubs will rip her apart the moment we move. We need to take the shot now." Darren raised his fist, signaling the squad to maintain. Something was wrong with this picture. The cubs weren't attacking. They should be attacking. Vraken cubs were notoriously aggressive, driven by instinct to kill anything that wasn't their mother. Instead, the 3 creatures sat motionless, their serpentine tails coiled around their haunches, their multifaceted eyes fixed not on the armed soldiers but on something else entirely. "Ilara Ven," Darren called out, his voice amplified through his helmet's external speakers. "I'm Captain Darren Holt, Galactic Defense Force. We're here to extract you. Can you move toward us slowly?" The girl's head lifted slightly. Her face was streaked with dirt and what might have been dried blood, but her eyes were clear, startlingly calm for someone who had survived 3 days in hostile territory surrounded by predators. "They won't let me go," she said, her voice carrying across the 20 meters that separated them. Not panicked, not afraid, simply stating a fact. "Miss Ven, those creatures are extremely dangerous. We can neutralize them and—" "No." The word was firm, absolute. "They're not dangerous. Not to me." One of the cubs shifted, and instantly every rifle tracked the movement. The creature's head swiveled toward the soldiers, a low rumbling emanating from deep within its chest. The sound made Darren's bones vibrate even through his combat armor. Then Ilara did something that made his blood freeze. She stepped forward, moving from behind the rocks, and placed her small hand on the nearest cub's massive skull. The cub immediately fell silent, leaning into her touch like some kind of domesticated pet. "By the void," someone whispered over the comm. "How is she doing that?" Zaris demanded. Darren didn't have an answer. In all his years of military service across dozens of worlds and hundreds of species, he had never seen anything like this. Humans were adaptable, yes. Humans were resilient. But they weren't beast tamers. They didn't possess any natural psionic abilities or pheromone controls that would explain this. "Ilara," he said carefully, modulating his tone to something softer, less military. "Can you explain what's happening here?" "Why aren't they attacking you?" The girl looked at him directly for the first time, and Darren was struck by the intelligence in her gaze. This wasn't a traumatized child stumbling through shock. This was someone who understood exactly what was occurring. "When the matriarch attacked the station," Ilara began, still stroking the cub's scales, "my parents pushed me into an emergency shelter pod, but it malfunctioned. The door wouldn't seal completely. I could hear everything. The screaming, the sounds." Her voice remained steady, but Darren saw her fingers tighten slightly on the cub's head. When it was over, the matriarch must have been injured because she didn't come back. But she left her cubs behind. They were hungry, confused. "They came to my shelter and I thought I was going to die too." "What changed?" Darren asked. "I didn't run. I couldn't run. So I just talked to them, sang to them. My mother used to study cross-species communication patterns. She always said that most intelligent species respond to consistent, non-threatening vocal patterns. So I tried it. One of the other cubs made a soft chirping sound incongruous from such a deadly creature. Alara smiled slightly and the cub pressed closer to her. They were babies, scared babies. They didn't need a predator. They needed a mother. The implications crashed through Darren's military training like a tsunami. Vraken cubs were supposed to be unreachable, untrainable, pure instinct. But humans had domesticated wolves once, hadn't they? Taken creatures that could kill them and turned them into companions through nothing but patience and empathy. Captain, Zaris said urgently, this changes everything. If humans can bond with Vraken— I know, Lieutenant. Darren's mind was already racing through the strategic implications. The Vraken were one of the few species that the Galactic Council feared. They controlled no territory but acknowledged no authority. They were wild, untouchable. Until now. Until this human girl had done the impossible simply by refusing to see monsters. By seeing frightened children instead. Darren slowly lowered his rifle, magnetizing it to his back. All units, weapons down. We're not here to fight, sir? Multiple voices questioned simultaneously. That's an order. He took 3 steps forward, hands visible and empty. Alara, those cubs can't stay here. Their mother might return. Can they come with us? The girl looked down at the 3 creatures sitting at her feet, their massive forms somehow gentle in her presence. When she looked back up, Darren saw tears in her eyes for the first time. Where you go, we go, she said simply. All of us. As the squad began their careful retreat back to the dropship, with Alara walking calmly in their midst and 3 juvenile Vraken following at her heels like devoted guardians, Darren filed his report with a trembling hand. Humanity had just domesticated the galaxy's apex predator, not with weapons, not with technology, but with something far more powerful, far more terrifying to those who would see humans as just another species among thousands. Compassion, understanding, and the stubborn human refusal to accept that anything was truly impossible. The galaxy would never be the same.